Restoring men in history. Beginning of the year, so we want to do a piece on motivation today. How are you going to stay motivated to get your goals and complete them this year? We want you to be a complete man, and we think this is part of the process with restoring men in history. You want to be motivated and work towards your goals, right? All year, be consistent. Motivation. Do you need to motivate yourself or your organization or your team? What do you need to do? How do you do it? How can you get better at it? How do you keep taking action? Consistent action all through the year toward your goals. What makes you take action? So today we take a look at this article on motivation. James Clear wrote it, jamesclear.com. It's called Motivation, the Scientific Guide on How to Get and Stay Motivated. Motivation, what it is and how it works. What is motivation? Common misconceptions about motivation. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button. We would appreciate it. Thank you and have a magnificent day. Scientists define motivation as you're generally willing to do something. It is the set of psychological forces that compel you to take action. Think about it right now. What compels you to take action as a man? What is motivation? The author, Steven Pressfield, has a great line in his book, The War of Art. Boy, that's a good book too. I enjoyed it. Core of the motivation. To paraphrase Pressfield, quote, at some point the pain of not doing it, this is simple, becomes greater than the pain of doing it. Anthony Robbins talks about this too, right? At some point the pain of not doing it becomes greater than the pain of doing it. Have you felt this way? Have you thought this way? Have you wanted to do something, but the pain's not quite there yet, Joe? Going on to his piece. In other words, at some point it is easier to change than to stay the same. Think about that. It is easier to change than stay the same. So it is easier to take action and feel insecure at the gym than to sit still and experience self-loathing on the couch, he says. It is easier to feel awkward while making the sales call than feel disappointed about your dwindling bank account. Those are his examples. So he thinks that's the essence of motivation. Every choice has a price in life, right? There's also an opportunity cost. But when you're motivated, it is easier to bear the inconvenience of action than pain remaining the same. Makes sense, right? Somehow we cross a mental threshold, he goes on to say, usually after weeks of procrastination and in the face of an impending deadline, and it becomes more painful to not do the work than to actually do it. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever rushed deadlines because you put it off to the end? Now, the important question, what can we do to make it more likely that we cross the mental threshold and feel motivated on a consistent basis? A football team needs to be consistent, right? You don't want what happened last night and that inconsistency with snaps and that disaster. That was just the offense giving away the game, beating themselves. So we want you to be consistent. So you want to be consistent at every practice if you're a football player, so that when it gets to the game time, you do it well, right? Same thing with your work life. Common misconceptions about motivation. One of the most surprising things about motivation, and this is key, is that it often comes after starting a new behavior, not before. Did you get that? This is why we say just get going at RMH, right? That's what we always say at RMH, get going, start. Just take action. You don't want to wait for things to be perfect, gentlemen. Ladies, you want to get going, get moving in the direction. Some people wait for it to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. You just got to get going. We teach that all the time at RMH. Start with what you can do right now with the resources you have at your hand and go. Okay? Got to take action, man. Have you heard people saying, I'll do that next year. Oh, I'll get around to it next month. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do it next week. And they never get to it. But it's years later and you go back to them and talk and they're still at the same place. They didn't start, right? They didn't start. So we want you to get going. Let's go back to him. Quote, we have this common misconception that motivation arrives as a result of passively consuming a motivational video or reading an inspirational book. However, active inspiration can be a far more powerful motivator. So when you're going to finish this video, you're going to take these steps and use them, right? And then take action with this video. Motivation is often the result of action, not the cause of it. You get that? Men, take action, right? We don't have to feel like it. We just have to do it. Action can lead to more motivation. Back to his piece. Getting started, even in very small ways, and we talk about that, small things that you can do, that you can control, can get you moving. So you don't have to pick the hardest task of the day. Start with an easy one if that motivates you better, and complete that. Check it off. Is a form of active inspiration that naturally produces what? Momentum. You need it in a football game too, momentum. Again, we talk about that a lot. Small steps, take an action, take a small step in the morning. He goes on. I like to refer to this effect as the physics of productivity because this is basically Newton's first law applied to habit formation. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Once a task has begun, it's easier to continue moving forward, right? You've noticed that in your life, right? Once you start something, it's easier to keep going. You don't need much motivation, he says, once you start a behavior. That's right. Nearly all the friction is what? At the beginning, right? It's hard for you to sit there and you think about it. You can overthink it. You can start saying, oh, I'll never finish. Oh, I'll never be good at this. Oh, and you get in your head games, right? Like a head case on a football field. So you get in your head and you never start. You go, oh, this could go wrong. This could go wrong. Instead of just taking action, going and then working out the problems as you go, like men do, because we will work through the problems as we go. We will solve them. And in that challenge, you'll get better at it. So it's difficult to write that first page of the novel or get to the gym for the very first time in your life, right? Or open that book. You say, I want to read, I don't know what your goal is, 20 books this year. Starting that first book and getting in the habit, too, of reading. So don't make it larger in your head and your imagination. Letting your imagination run wild, just keep going. Going back to his piece, after you start, progress occurs more naturally. In other words, it is often easier to finish a task than it was to start it in the first place. So true, right? We say that all the time, get started. This is one of the keys of motivating to make it easy to start, and I really like doing it. So I really like this next one. How to get motivated and take action. People struggle to find, many people, the motivation they need to achieve the goals they want because they're wasting too much time and energy on other parts of the process. So what do we do about this, ladies and gentlemen? Then it helps to automate the early stages of your behavior. Schedule. I like this one a lot. I do it sometimes. Schedule your motivation. This is a big principle in this piece. One I like and use. Been using it. Write it down. Sometimes I schedule things and it'll be a reminder. So this is a good reminder. Sarah Peck, the writer, says this. During a conversation about writing, his friend Sarah Peck looked at him and said, a lot of people never get around to writing because they're always wondering when they're going to write next, when they're going to write next. You could say the same thing about working out, starting a business, creating art, and building most habits. If your workout doesn't have a time when it usually occurs, then each day you wake up thinking, I hope I feel motivated to exercise. So that's not the key. Right, Tara? We don't go to the gym only when we feel motivated or only when I've slept. I've gone to the gym many, many days. I like hitting the iron. So I'm going to go even if I haven't slept that night, most of the time. In the morning. Then it's already done. So if I have business problems come up, doesn't matter. The gym's done first thing in the morning. I used to go at lunchtime, which worked too well for me in between meetings. But I like the morning now. But do what you want to. Just get it done. Point is, it wasn't how I felt. If your business doesn't have a system for marketing, then you'll show up at work crossing your fingers. Then you'll find a way to get the word out to everything else you have to do. So you don't want to be crossing your fingers, right? You want to schedule the plan for marketing and the time. If you don't have a scheduled time when you write every week, then you'll find yourself saying things like, I just need to find the willpower to do it. This is a big one. You don't need the willpower to write. You just have to do it. Again, this piece, through all of it, just remember this. You don't have to feel like anything. You just have to do it. You're men. Okay? You don't have to feel like it. You just have to do it. Write it down, schedule it, do it. Doesn't matter how you feel. I like to do the gym first because problems may wipe it out. If you're a writer, you may want to write first, or you may want to write at the end of the night when it's quiet, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. I don't know. It's up to you. Back to the article. An article in The Guardian summarized the situation by saying, quote, If you waste resources trying to decide when or where to work, you'll impede your capacity to do the work. Make sense? Setting a schedule for yourself seems simple, but it puts your decision making on autopilot by giving your goals a time and place to live by. That means you do it whether you feel like it or not. Makes it more likely that you'll follow. So we want you to follow the schedule and not how you feel at the time, right? Back to it. There are plenty of research studies on willpower, motivation to back up that statement. Stop waiting for motivation or inspiration to strike. Set the schedule. This is the difference between what? Professionals and amateurs. Professionals get a schedule and stick to it. Amateurs wait till they feel inspired and motivated. You may never feel inspired, or you may be one day a month. If you do it every day, you're done. So if you want to write that novel you've always talked about, schedule it. 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. or 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. I don't know when you like to stay up late, get up early, do what you need to do. If you want to build a better friendship, schedule time with that friend. If you want to deepen one particular friendship, schedule time with that friend every month. Put it in the books. Schedule it. If you say, I want to make more friends and I want to build new friendships, which we talk about at RMH, you're going to have to schedule that if that's one of your goals. If you want to take dance lessons, schedule it. If you want to write a screenplay, schedule it. You want to go to the gym, schedule it. And then it becomes as important in a business meeting, right? Because hopefully you don't miss a lot of business meetings because that's scheduled and someone else is there, so you don't want to infringe. So what you're trying to do is schedule for yourself. Because if you're just reading a book by yourself and you have your goal to read books, you're not going to be inconsiderate to anyone but yourself if you miss it. So you're probably going, I hope, you're going to make a business meeting, although many people don't. So that's not true. That's why we have the saying, do what you say, because so many people miss that. Agree to do something and then don't. That's why our mantra is do what you say, man. Whatever it is you wish to accomplish, schedule it. How to get motivated, even when you don't feel like it. How do some of those prolific artists in the world motivate themselves? Here's a good thing he puts in here. They don't merely set schedules, they build rituals. This lady, T-W-Y-L-A-T-H-A-R-P, I don't want to butcher her name, is widely regarded as one of the greatest dancers and choreographers of her modern era. In her best-selling book, The Creative Habit, Tharp discusses the role rituals or pregame routines that have played in her success. She says, I begin each day of my life with a ritual. I wake up at 5:30 a.m., put on my workout clothes, my leg warmers, my sweatshirts, and my hat. I walk outside my Manhattan home, hail a taxi, and tell the driver to take me to the Pumping Iron Gym at 91st Street and 1st Avenue, where I work out for 2 hours. The ritual is not the stretching and weight training I put my body through. The ritual is what? The cab. So you get that, you get how to do a ritual. We just want you to learn these tricks. If it helps you, maybe it'll help you. Once the moment I tell the driver where to go, I've completed the ritual. It's a simple act, but doing it the same way each morning habitualizes. That's what we're trying to do here, habitualize it for you. So you don't have to think about it. So you don't have to make a decision, you just do it, right? She says it reduces the chance that I would skip it or do it differently. It is one more item in my arsenal of routines and one thing less to think about. What else? Mason Curry notes that many of the world's greatest artists follow a consistent schedule in his book, Daily Rituals, How Artists Work. Maya Angelou rented a local hotel room and went there to write. She arrived at 6:30 a.m., wrote till 2, then went home to do some editing. She never slept at the hotel. Pulitzer Prize winner Michael Chabon writes 5 nights per week, 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. The work of top creatives isn't dependent upon motivation or inspiration, and get this, but rather it follows a consistent pattern and routine. Here are some examples of how you can apply that. 1, exercise more consistently. Use the same warm-up routine in the gym. 2, become more creative. Follow a creative ritual before you start writing or painting or singing. 3, start each day stress-free. Create a 5-minute morning meditation ritual. 4, sleep better. Follow a power-down routine before bed. The power of a ritual, of what I like to call a pre-game routine, is that it provides a mindless way to initiate your behavior. Starts making habits easier, he says, and that means following through on a consistent basis. So the key to a ritual is it removes the decision making. Doesn't matter how you feel. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. All right? That way it doesn't become difficult, challenging. How to make motivation a habit. There are 3 simple steps you can take to build better rituals. Step 1, A good pregame routine starts by being so easy that you can't say no to it. You shouldn't need motivation to start your pregame routine. For example, my riding routine starts with a glass of water. His weightlifting routine starts by putting on his lifting shoes. My weightlifting routine starts by putting on my tennis shoes in the morning. I put them on, I go. So you just have to start. You men can make mistakes, but you just have to start. Back to his piece. If you can't get motivated in the beginning, then you'll find that motivation often comes after starting. Exactly the main thing. We talk about this all the time. We've said it. Just get started. That's why your pregame routine needs to be incredibly easy to start. Remember the old phrase, KISS, keep it simple. Your routine should get you moving toward the end goal. A lack of mental motivation is often linked to a lack of physical movement. Just imagine your physical state when you're feeling depressed, bored, or unmotivated. You're not moving very much, so get moving. The opposite is always true. If you're physically moving and engaged, it's far more likely you'll feel mentally engaged and energized. Absolutely, right? You start, it's so much easier to go. It's almost impossible not to feel vibrant and awake and energized when you're dancing, he says. Good example. Dancing does energize me. And you tend to pick up energy when I go dancing. So while your routine should be as easy as possible to start, it should gradually transition into more and more physical movement. Your mind and your motivation will follow. For example, if your goal is to write, then your routine should bring you closer to the physical act of writing. Step 3, you need to follow the same pattern every single time. Routine, ritual, habit. The primary purpose of your pregame routine is to create a series of events that you always perform before doing a specific task. Your pregame routine tells your mind, this is what happens before I do what. Eventually, this becomes so tied to your performance that by simply doing the routine, you're pulled into a mental state and you're primed to perform. So we want you to perform, men. So I hope this is good for the beginning of the year. Your pregame routine is that trigger. This is important because when you don't feel motivated, it's often too much work to figure out what you should do next. When faced with another decision, you will just decide to quit. How many people don't ever start? How many people quit? So many people quit at things. We want you to keep going. They want to write a screenplay, or they want to write a novel, or they want to read so many books this year, but they never do it. They never start, or they quit. Or they go to the gym with good intentions and they go to 3 workouts, or they go 1 month and they stop, right, Tara? Okay. Pre-routine fixes that. How to stay motivated in the long run. This is a good one. He comes up with the Goldilocks rule. And this is interesting. It can help you. So what he's talking about here is, imagine you're playing tennis. If you try to play a serious game against a 4-year-old, you'll become bored, right? The match is too easy. So you want that balance. Aristotle talks about balance as well. On the opposite end, if you try to play against Roger Federer, you will find yourself demotivated, right? Compare these experiences to playing against someone who is your equal. As the game progresses, you will win a few points and you will lose a few points. You have a chance of winning the match, but only if you really try. Your focus narrows, he says. Distractions fade away. Victory is not guaranteed, but it is possible. Tasks like these, science has found, are the most likely to keep us motivated. Human beings love challenges, but only if they're within the optimal zone of difficulty. Tasks that are significantly below or above are discouraging. But tasks that are right on the border of success and failure are motivating. He calls it the Goldilocks rule. The Goldilocks rule states that human beings experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are right on the edge. Not too hard, not too easy, just right. Make sense? Working on tasks that adhere to the Goldilocks rule is one of the keys in maintaining long-term motivation. If you're feeling unmotivated, either, he says, it could be because you drifted into boredom or it's been shoved into too great of a difficulty. So, how to reach your peak motivation. The wonderful blend of happiness and peak performance is sometimes referred to flow. I read a great book on flow. Fantastic book. Flow is what athletes and performers experience when they're in the zone. Flow is the mental state you experience when you're so focused on the task. Have you ever felt this? You lose track of time? Sometimes I'll be reading a book and lose track of time, or working on something, just lose track of time. That's when you know you're in flow. You lose track of time. The world's gone. I think Elon Musk gets into this often, right? I'm reading his biography. Maybe we'll do that. In many ways, we could describe flow as your state of peak motivation. You would be hard-pressed to find a state where you're more driven. I felt it. Have you? One factor that researchers have found is linked to flow states is whether or not you're following the Goldilocks rule. If you're working on challenges of optimal difficulty, then you will not only be motivated, but also experience a boost in happiness. Gilbert Brim put it. One of the important sources of human happiness is working on tasks at a suitable level of difficulty. Neither too hard or easy. Okay, we got that. What to do when motivation fades? Inevitably, your motivation to perform a task will dip at some point. What happens when motivation fades? Your mind is a suggestion engine. Consider every thought you have as a suggestion, not an order. Right now, he says he's writing this and his mind is suggesting that he feels tired. It is suggesting that I give up. But he goes on. And you have to go on when you get that feeling. Because why? You'll feel very good, he goes on to say, if you accomplish it. You'll feel better if you don't stop an accomplishment. So, he suggests that he will respect the identity he's building when he sticks to the schedule. So just remember, suggestions are not orders. They're that, suggestions. Discomfort is temporary. Relative to the time in your normal day or week, nearly any habit you perform is over quickly. Your workout will be finished in an hour or two. So you can keep going and do it. Know the pain will be temporary, the discomfort will be temporary, and keep going. And lastly, I think he says you will never regret good work once it's done, right? Once we complete something, we feel good about something. You can feel accomplished. And what's the principle? We want to be accomplished as men, right? So then you can accomplish something, and then you'll feel guilt, and then you can go have, he doesn't put this in, but I'm putting in a reward, a cigar. Well, maybe he does have it in. But anyway, you can celebrate that you've accomplished something and go have a cigar like I'm going to do later. So get started. Set a schedule, men. Create a ritual. You do not have to feel like it, remember. You just have to what? Take action. You just have to get started and doing it, complete it, finish it, write it down, schedule it. Getting started is so important. So what are you going to do today? Write it down. Let's take action from this video, men. What's the one thing you've been wanting to do? Is it write a novel? Is it go to the gym? What is it? Is it take a class? Write it down. Whatever you're going to do, write that down, schedule it, create a ritual for it, and do it. That's the point of this. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button. Thank you and have a magnificent day.